Let's go live to Caracas, Venezuela, where the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, is offering statements. Let's listen.
In the presidential elections of 2024, as in all these press conferences that we have made in other occasions, we talked about briefly the development of the electoral event, and we also shared with the millions, with the means of communications, the experience that we lived in this event. And even when we will talk about the strong results of yesterday, this press conference follows to denounce something that is much different from the spirit of the Venezuelan people that expressed yesterday, the Venezuelan people. It's about the violent extremist of the far right. The plan of fascism in Venezuela never was a proposal, a project, electoral project. It was an excuse, the summon to the event to be able to develop the phase of the plan which they have prepared for a long time. And they also were saying it in some moments. They say it during the development of the electoral campaign. They decided not to participate, and the candidates will present before the CNE to sign a commitment to recognize the results, a compromise, a commitment that before, during, and afterwards there will be no events of violence, and a commitment to respect among the participating factors in this electoral process the results profound strongly of the decision of our people of burying definitely of fascism that have characterized the sector of the political situation of Venezuela. And this is the consequence of the years of fight of the Venezuelan people against the actions, against the blockade, against the violence, against the so-called to death, against burning people alive because of the color of their skin, because every time that they ignore the people of Venezuela, they call the people in Venezuela as a plague. One of those very representative of fascism in Venezuela, he dared to say that the Venezuelan immigration was a plague. The candidate President Nicolas Maduro got in the transmission made yesterday 80%, 5,150,092 votes for a 51.2%. And even Elon Musk dared to say, in a way that one might think that's a person that has such a high empire, an absolute hegemonic empire, that he doesn't respect for laws, he doesn't respect for anything. With Venezuela, no. We made a mistake. They made a mistake so childish. For example, yesterday, teleSUR published an information where he was putting all the information that 52%, the result of the candidate that was in the second place, 42.2%, and then afterwards, according to the bulletin issued by the CNE, all the candidates, 4.6%. teleSUR, I imagine that in order to make it more graphic, the response put all the candidates that were in third place onward back, and he just put it in the 4.6% as a total. And Elon Musk had the idea to add up, and he said 52.2, 44.4 plus 4.6 is not total the amount. So this is the proof of the fraud. So he said the elections in Venezuela are automatic. There's no boxes. In Venezuela, people vote through a machine. Afterwards, they go to a polling box. But I put this as an example of a silly level that a person can achieve, can go to, if he resort to that argument, so silly arguments as the one that he just arrived. The electoral event was peaceful because we made it. President Maduro, I refer to the people of Venezuela, because we sorted out all the attempts that they tried to do to generate violence events during the electoral event, because we managed to foil all the attacks against the power system, because we managed to safeguard the lives of our candidates. It sounds barbarous and absurd. We had to, each day, we had to sit down to make plans to avoid that our candidates were attacked in a very atrocious way. The same day that we registered candidate Nicolas Maduro, there were two people that were just a few meters from him to go with him to assassinate him. If in the city of Maturin we found snipers, and if in Apure we saw the coming of the criminals from Colombia, we were telling that to be able to keep the peaceful climate, because it was our commitment, our principal commitment, that the electoral campaign was peaceful, that the electoral event be peaceful, and that peaceful was defending afterwards the election. But their proposals were always violent of this sector of the far right. And this is not new. I'm not saying that myself. 29th of July 2018, Madam Corina Machado, we know that the regiment will always be thrown with force. Yesterday, they gave the example, because the armed forces actually safeguarded the people. Maria Corina Machado made an intervention to manage the freedom of Venezuela. Okay, let's come here and assassinate us. For whatever surnames that they have, they are criminals. It seems a very good decision that the conversations are started between the South Command and the ambassadors. This is a criminal, which the only objective that he tried to look for when he was there to find Donald Trump to invade the sacred territory of Venezuela, and they were meeting, and the South Command to discuss the winter clothes, or perhaps they were meeting to find out the military plans against Venezuela. So here she is thanking this criminal, this lackey, who was ambassador of Duque, the criminal Duque, thanking Duque because this criminal was asking the participation of the AR, a multilateral army, to invade Venezuela. And I'm not tiring you with so many examples. Why I say that? Because the true plan was the one that they're trying to execute during these late hours. This is not only an election, as once they told Maduro and me, a friend of a country of our continent, the elections is a process that starts with the inscription of the candidates, the campaign, and afterwards the voting, and afterwards the electoral body issues a statement, the results, and this process is closed with the proclamation of the candidate that won. It's a process, but it's very clear that the intention was another one. What did they do? They said that they were going to recognize the results of the CNE results, that they would not recognize that, but only that what their documents say. They will only recognize what their own documents would say. And yesterday we learned that what was their intentions. They attacked the center of transmission of the CNE. They attacked the web page of the CNE. Millions of attacks they received the web page of the CNE. But they also attacked specifically the centers that the CNE has across for where all the data with the results of the elections passed. They try to avoid that data, valuable information, to avoid the totals and be able to proclaim a winner, to be able to impose what they want, what the information of their documents. They would only recognize their documents, and to avoid that yesterday the CNE could issue its bulletin. If they had managed this plan, which was their main plan, so the violence that they're trying to sow, they would have done it yesterday. And they would come out and say, well, we have our own acts, our own documents. And when they start asking the journalists if they have the documents, why don't they show it? So this man, I remember, I forget this man, González Urrutia, came out to say, we have 20% of the documents of the acts. We have 30%. No, we have 15%. Another one came and said, no, we have 25%. And another liar said that she had 100%. Who do we believe if many people at the same time in the 30 minutes for different percentages that they have? At this time, I imagine that they must be inventing things in order to sow, again, things before the international media, so that Elon Musk amplify those information, those lies in the social media, and in order to the governments that are the last one government, it's their boss to reproduce and amplify that lie. When in every country in the planet, the only bulletin and the only result that has to be respected is the one that is issued by the National Electoral Council. The National Electoral Council managed the transmission of the data, but the brutal hacking is still on to avoid that the 100% of the information can be transmitted to the National Electoral Council. So what is the reason? To do the same thing that Capriles did in 2013, to call people to the streets. And it's not calling people to the streets. The thing is that it's been a year that they have been trying to prepare those hotspots in different areas in the country, in Caracas, in Carabobo, in Aragua, in Portuguesa. They had one more year of preparing criminals, thanks that the government of President Maduro dismantled the big bands that were acting in the national territory. They haven't been able to generate the violence that they were planning, because everything they dismantled, all the people that they had contracted were dismantled. So now they didn't stop contracting people as Capriles did in 2013 and 2017, is to contact people, criminals in the neighborhoods, to attack the inhabitants of those neighborhoods, to generate violence and to generate uncertainty, and that's what they're trying to do now, today. Now they are saying now that there are 11 dead. How many dead in 2017? How many dead in 2014 and 2017? Do you remember? La Salida was planned to develop violence, generate violence, the day of the elections of mayorship, of mayors, of December 2013. And they were not able to do that because the People's Force and the deployment of the public forces avoided and kept those situations to develop. And you see here Maria Corina Machado issuing their violence plans in February 2014. It's very curious that two months before we had mayor elections, and some of them have been elected mayors of different cities in the country. But there was a plan that was already orchestrated, and I would like to insist the proposal of the far right extremist is not electoral, it's violent, it's barbarous, it's homicidal. They don't care the elections. They only have the elections as a means to achieve their objectives. That's why they call fraud before time. And it was very curious that a political representative called fraud before the electoral process. The intention that we're trying to get, and the ones that they're trying to do now in the social media, is just that, to develop and generate a hotspot to generate violence. The April 30 coup 2019, the attempt of coup, the proclamation of this silly of Juan Guaidó. This is the same standard, the same. Now they're doing the same thing. Now the President-elect Maduro said is the Plan Guaidó 2.0, because he counts on Moss with the networks and with other forms and ways to attack the tranquility and peace of the population. His project is not electoral project. Fascism does not resort to elections, but only as a mean to achieve their violent proposal. Their proposal is violence, is maltreatment, is aggression, and that's what they're doing today. They just burned the distributor in Altamira. They just left manholes. They burned containers, waste containers, and all these accompanied, of course, of the networks, media, that is an excuse to claim, which is not original. They have already chanted fraud in all the electoral events in which they have lost since 2004 until today. It's not even original. 15th of August 2004, Hugo Chavez won 60% to 40%. The so-called referendum fraud, they call fraud. They said that they would show the proofs, the evidence. They never did. During the days 15, 16, 17, 18 August, there was violence in the streets of Caracas. The assassination of the prosecutors Anderson also has to do with these plans of these groups during the referendum and afterwards after the referendum. Manuel Rosales recognized partially the defeat that he received with Chavez in 2006, and in the same press conference, they denied that in the same conference that they acknowledged that. So the mayor elections they said it was a referendum against Maduro. Maduro won, and they also launched what they call La Salida. That is to say, for them, the elections is not only it's an opportunity to violence, and it's what they're trying to do at this moment. And I will tell them, no, we're not going to permit that. We're not going to permit it. Nicolas Maduro, we're not going to permit it. The public forces of Venezuela will not allow it. And of course, the people of Venezuela will not allow it. That's why we summoned to all our people to great marches tomorrow at 2 o'clock from Petare to Miraflores, from Cate to Miraflores, from La Vegas to Miraflores, from El Valle to Miraflores to celebrate this victory, but also to defend peace of the Republic. This time, we will not allow that, and they will not achieve it. And of course, with some, all the forces of the revolutionary people of Venezuela for this marches in their cities, in their state. This has been a very electoral campaign characterized by the exchange, by the meetings of 9 candidates with their followers. The other was trying to organize the force of the day after. And the day after, for whatever they deny it, and the day after, we also exist and we are the majority. And that's why we're going to the streets to defend peace, even your peace that you are living. Also, you that live in Florida, we are defending your right to peace. You have the right to peace, and perhaps the candidate you voted for is the one that is organizing together with these leaders all these acts of violence that they have tried to generate as a hotspot in the city, in the capital city, and in other cities of the country. But we're not going to allow that. They will be dismantled with the use of the resources that the Constitution and the laws gives us. And tomorrow, to the streets. Tomorrow, we will be millions, we will be thousands on all the 4 cardinal points that to just full all the avenues. We're going to Miraflores to defend our right to life, our right to freedom, and above all, our right to select and to defend the result of elections. Nobody's going to come here. No, it's going to come here any bureaucrats, not even as a daughter of daddy, to impose a result that was not expressed in the machines, in the voting machines. No Elon Musk will come here. No foreign government is come here to impose a result that is not the result that was provided in the electoral process of the Venezuelan people. So it's very clear that the idea that you have is not an electoral plan. We knew it, and even that way, and with all the sanctions, economic sanctions against the people of Venezuela, and all the blockades to the economy, and despite the process of recuperation, economic recuperation that we have had, there's no doubt that has been very hard, the aggressions that we have been submitted. There's no doubt about it, because that's their always plan, to maltreat, to attack, to take advantage of the damage, to take advantage of their evilness. But they are mistaken. Again, we're going to the streets to defend this territory that you hate, to this territory, to the life of people, to defend the right of peace, to the right of the economic recovery, the right that we can develop all the plans that allow us to recover this, and you will be with everything, I swear.
We were listening to the statements of the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, several hours after the release of the preliminary results of the presidential elections that granted the victory to President-elect Nicolas Maduro. During his statements, Rodriguez denounced the hacking of the electoral system, an action performed by the extreme right wing of the country that does not respect the will of the majority of the people. In his remarks, the official assured that even when the far right is trying to hamper this democratic process, the victory of President-elect Nicolas Maduro is legitimate and is the result of years of struggle against fascism. Finally, Rodriguez called for a massive march in the capital, Caracas, and in the rest of the country to celebrate this victory and to defend peace. This is all for the moment. Stay tuned with From the South.